So one thing that I've always felt was interesting to me and something that was very appealing, I would say, is the idea of ownership, right? Ownership for me is something that is so interesting because you don't have to do that much to be a owner of something, right? And then I suppose growing up, when you're thinking ownership, you're thinking more ownership of your home or ownership of a business per se, right? And with those things, obviously, those are incredibly important and notable things in this life and this world. But for me, the idea of having ownership of your methodology or the way that you work or a framework per se is something that always sort of I found it so appealing. I don't know what it was. I found it so interesting to know that there's people walking around developing these frameworks that shift the mindsets of people in terms of how they do certain things, whether it comes down to how they market themselves, how they get involved with the sales process in order to generate more revenue, or even from the PR side in terms of building a robust sort of idea of your content and how you're able to distribute it across different channels. For me, when I think of ownership, I think ownership of your methodology, your way of living, your way of working, whatever that is for you. For me, I just found that the most appealing thing for me when it came down to ownership. Obviously, yes, God willing, home ownership soon come. Business ownership that is there in terms of getting the registered company name and all that sort of stuff. But for me, the whole idea of really putting together a sort of way of working and something that can be applicable to many different people in different stages of their sort of business journey is just something that I gravitated to a lot. So for this video, I wanted to give you an introduction into the Phases brand authority system and what it entails and effectively how it works. And for me, before I even get started, I just wanted to really just go back and talk about why the idea or why I even called it phases, right? Why it's so important to me as a framework and a methodology that I live by and that I work with and I teach people, right? Because for me, throughout my life, I would say is that navigating and working, and I felt that there was always different phases of my life where things could have went left, but it went the right way. It went the way that it was meant to go, just on the basis that I spent the time to learn, or I spent the time to be focused on these particular things, or I just used my initiative to really do certain things that which in turn helped the next phase of my life or the next phase of my life. Everything that I've always looked into doing has always resulted in me compounding. So it has allowed an opening area for the next phase of my life where I've been able to enter. And when I was in a position where I didn't necessarily know what the future was looking like when I left my role, I kind of thought to myself, I've been living like this for all of my life. I've always built something that had enough sort of credibility in that sense that would allow me to get through a particular issue or a problem, and I'll find a way to make it work. And for me, that is where the whole idea of follow the phases came from, because for me it's like I'm following the necessary steps in order to get to where I need to get to my end destination. And as far as branding is as we know it, branding is that same idea. You are building on your personal brand, your business brand, and the campaign brand that I mentioned, or we'll get into it. But you're building on the idea of what a brand means to you, and you are documenting and following that journey to a T. And everything that you do, from the content side to you being able to produce the work that you're doing, right? it all compounds into the next phase of your life that ultimately leads to the place that you need to get to, that end journey. And then that's why I called it that. And then with the idea of the phases as a term, that for me, like I literally sat down because I was thinking I need to make this make sense and make it work, right? So let me share my screen and then I'll give you a full breakdown on it. And ultimately, if you find this compelling, if you find this interesting, please click in the description box down below and let's have a chat. Apply for a clarity call. If you feel that this particular framework and this particular system can help you in terms of building your level of brand authority, and I would love to hear from you, because for me, I just want to be there to help you build that level of proof of concept, right? That's what I'm here to do. No matter how big, no matter how small, I am here to help you incorporate the P.H.A.S.E.S brand authority system to allow you to get to that proof of concept so you can take things to the next level. And I want to be a growth partner in the work that you're doing. So if you are interested, then click in the description box down below. But in the meantime, let me share my screen and I can show you the P.H.A.S.E.S brand authority system. So with this system, it really was something I spent a lot of time focusing on and really making it make sense for the people who incorporate it into their lives and also for myself, because all the things that I will be going through in this video, I live by. I live by it every single day, and I'm always preaching about it because I feel that these are the most optimal things that you need to think about when it comes down to brand building in 2026 and beyond. And even when I talk about the importance of the personal branding deadline, the 30th of November 2027. This for me is a system that will allow you to future proof your brand for years to come, right? And that's why I'm such a big believer in it. And that's why I'm so grateful to even document the journey, because you will see in the journey that I'm documenting that I'm using the same philosophy and the framework and the methodology every single day and applying it to myself to get to where I need to get to. So by the time you may or may not watch this, I don't know when you're going to watch this, but by the time you actually watch this, you will then realize that all the things I put in place was built for me to get to this situation where I'm excelling in a whole new level. And I just want to be able to showcase and document whilst being able to teach, right? So with the P.H.A.S.E.S brand authority system is split into three sections, right? So I call it the why, the how, and the compound effect. So we have the 3B authority method, right? And you'll find this one to be quite familiar when I go into it. Then, of course, the phases framework, which is effectively the flagship framework. And lastly, the authority flywheel, right? So let me go on the next slide. So ultimately, as you know, I talk about this stuff every single video. I talk about your brand authority. It's your personal brand multiplied by your business brand multiplied by your campaign brand. That gives you that level of brand authority that makes you more visible and credible to your desired target audience, right? If you do this, then you will get more leads, which in turn will give you more clients and ultimately more revenue for your business, right? And for me, as you can see there, most founders build one brand layer. They build one. And that's when I talk about that personal branding as we know it is not as strong as a standalone thing anymore. Whilst when it first initially started, sure, you can say, yeah, it's very impactful, very useful. But over time, the term has been diluted, and now it's more of a thing that you kind of imply or say if you just want to be known as an influencer or whatever the case. But as far as I'm concerned, when it comes down to building a revenue generating brand, you need to apply all three, right? So, as I mentioned, your personal brand is your judgment. Buyers learn to trust, and they trust you because they gravitate towards you. You have been able to document your life and to showcase your journey, to talk about the highs and the lows and the messy middle. You have been very forthcoming with being able to show that in a way that allows people to resonate with you, to learn from you, all to the point where they just feel like they know you a lot more because you've been forthcoming with documenting the journey. And when it comes down to the business brand, it's your proof that you can deliver what you promise. The work that you do, what is your brand promise? That is the part that really sets apart the people that are just building a personal brand just for the sake of it, to those who are building a brand that incorporates both their personal brand and their business brand, right? It's the whole idea of incorporating both to ensure that you're able to develop those revenue generating opportunities. And it's so important. And I feel like a lot of founders are just incorporating the idea that personal brand is enough. And it's not enough. You need to find a way to create that level of brand synergy across the board. And when it comes down to the campaign brand, your strategic narratives that make expertise visible. And that's why I talk about the campaign brand when I do it. It's in the middle because that powers both the personal brand and the business brand to reach a new level that you didn't even think was feasible until you started to incorporate the campaigns within your journey, right? And when you start to do that and then you start to see the difference and the transition, then it changes everything. And I'm going to do a video as well showcasing you exactly what I'm doing within my campaign brand. And effectively, this part is my campaign brand as it stands, documenting and showcasing and now being able to share the P.H.A.S.E.S brand authority system with you all is my campaign. And that's what I'll be doing a lot of now to really just reinforce and highlight the fact that this isn't no just some any sort of framework or methodology. This is an effective way to build authority infrastructure within your business and your personal brand that can allow you to take things to a whole new level, right? To not only increase your revenue opportunities for your business, but also the revenue generating opportunities for yourself as a brand as well. Honestly, I'm so proud of the way that I've embedded this because it's something that I can document and show you in real time as I'm doing it. So it's not even an accident. Everything you will see, I've been speaking about for an awfully long time. So this is the brand authority based on the 3B authority method, right? And then when you get that correct, you understand that authority appears when your personal brand, business brand, and campaigns express the same truth in ways suited to each channel. And that is the thing that we need to bear in mind. Not all things are going to be the same, right? Not all things are going to be the same. Do not get confused when I say that they're multipliers of each other, because you have to strategically position them in a way that makes sense for all three channels, right? So that is the 3B authority method. And then we have the P.H.A.S.E.S framework. So the framework, for those who may not know, was the first initial idea that I came up with before the 3B authority method, before the authority flywheel, before it even became much more of a more cohesive system. This was the first initial framework that I worked on and I was producing in terms of that work for clients and myself as well. And I feel that this particular framework is extremely impactful. And I got big hopes for this particular framework. I'm hoping that this framework is so effective and so beneficial for hundreds of people, or matter of fact, thousands of people, tens of thousands, that it becomes something that can be accredited as an actual course or an actual sort of training that allows people to build their brand authority, right? And you know what it means already, so I don't even need to go there. However, let's start with P, the positioning. Define what buyers should trust you for. Define what buyers should trust you for. And with that, your positioning is so important. That is how you express who you are, what you do, what your expertise are, what you stand for, what you don't stand for. All those things align with defining what are those things that buyers should trust you for. And that means that you have to get your positioning tight in order for people to understand. If they don't know who you are, what you do, then by all means they need to know why you're doing the things that you're doing, or who is your target audience in that sense. Who is your ICP? Who is your IFP? Who is your ABP? Right? All of those things play a massive part into your positioning part, and it's extremely important to figure out on the first stage. And then secondly, we have the hook. Present a distinctive insight worth listening to. There's far too many people who are, I would argue, playing it safe. They're playing it safe, and they're playing it very safe because maybe they don't want to sort of step on any toes, or they don't want to offend anyone, or whatever the case, and that's perfectly fine. But if you are looking to build a revenue generating brand, it's in your best interest to be distinctive. And to be distinctive, you need to be able to stand for something. So they say if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. You need to be someone that has those particular sort of views, and you need to stand on those views, and you need to be vocal about what that means, right? For me, I talk an awful lot about the personal branding deadline, the 30th of November 2027. And I say that because when it gets to that stage, it will be far too easy for people to produce content. It will be far too easy. The only differentiator between that will be the people who have been able to build that level of credibility amongst a sea of sameness, right? And that's where it's important. That's where your hook plays a massive part. And then we have amplification. Make sure your authority is visible across the right platforms, right? And for that, you need to ensure that you are able to amplify across the board. So when I talk about my philosophy when it comes down to those platforms, right? Using YouTube, LinkedIn, and Substack as my primary platforms. And then the secondary platforms are more for the shorts. YouTube shorts, Instagram reels, TikTok, and then when you learn to distribute that across those social platforms and across all various different sort of channels, right? Such as your newsletter, for example, or even a blog, like as mentioned, when you are able to do that, then you understand how you're able to amplify. And amplification is extremely important when it comes down to brand building. And I've done a video showcasing how you are able to effectively develop 10 plus touch points when it comes down to getting one piece of media coverage. So check that out, because I know that'll be beneficial for you as well. Strategic partnerships, grow trust through aligned collaborations. So when it comes down to that, who are you connecting with? Who are you established with? Who are you associated with? All those things align with strategic partnerships. And right now, being able to borrow credibility from other reputable people within your niche or within your industry is a sure way for you to build your brand, just as much as you being able to help others in the process as well, right? Strategic partnerships, who are you collaborating with? That is super important in terms of you being able to build and develop. You cannot build a personal brand or a business brand alone. You cannot. You need to strategically partner with people who can help you, right? And then you can also help in the meantime as well, right? You have to collaborate. Mutual collaboration is super effective, and it will take you so far. Engagement, turn visibility into real conversations and pipeline. Create those conversations. Don't feel like you're too much of a celebrity not to reply to people, not to not, you know what I mean? People will be there commenting to your post, and you're not replying to it. Like for me, I find that insane, but it happens all the time. And I understand you may be busy, but you should never be too busy for people who could potentially pay you for your services or your offerings, or even be able to let you know who can help you in the process, or more importantly, who they know that may require your services. It's in your best interest to focus on that engagement. And then lastly, based on the phases framework, sustainability. It's installing systems that maintain authority without burnout, right? And then for me, I think the burnout side is very key as well. Because I did get a bit of stick online the other day. I said that I don't believe in burnout. I'm pretty sure I've done a video explaining my thought process of it. But long story short, for me, I feel that if you are aligned with what you are doing and it feeds you, right? If it feeds you and it feeds your soul based on the work that you're doing, then I believe from you doing that, you can never get burnout. When it comes down to being caught up in, corporate life and doing work that you don't necessarily like or gravitate to, or you enjoy, or you feel like it's even beneficial or useful, that's why I feel it becomes a bit of a pickle. But that is a story for another day. Sorry for those who are offended. Let's move on. And that is the phases framework as it stands. And then lastly, within the phases brand authority system, we have the authority flywheel. So for me, it's the compounding engine that turns authority into sustained pipeline and revenue, right? And for me, I feel that this is one of the more accessible ways of being able to do it alongside all of the other ways I've incorporated this system. This system is designed to work, right? That's how I designed it. And you will see, for me, it's working in real time in the way that I've been able to incorporate it and apply it. All it comes down to is just compounding and then just building over time, right? So for me, it's just me installing the system into your business, into what you're doing, and to effectively allow you to incorporate these things in a way that makes the most sense for you, for your brand, right? So with the authority flywheel, we have the core platform, synergy, amplification, PR, marketing, and revenue, right? So I'm just going to go through the whole process one by one and how it leads into the end, right? And it's just a repeat of it. So you got your core platforms, and as I mentioned, my core platforms are LinkedIn, YouTube, and Substack. I believe those are the key platforms that you can incorporate as a founder in order to showcase your brand in all various different ways. YouTube, it obviously gives you that long form idea, that depth, and that trust because you're listening to me right now and you're seeing the content that I'm offering you and sharing with you. Substack provides that owned media aspect. You own that. You're able to provide newsletters. You're able to provide blog content. You can collaborate with so many other people within the area of Substack, right? To build on your journey of building that community on there. You can share the behind the scenes on there. You can share additional information on there. You can use the transcripts from YouTube to turn into blog content for your Substack, right? That is the way to go. And LinkedIn is what can I say? It's the best platform as a B2B founder. You have direct connections and contacts with the people who will be buying your services, right? And when you incorporate the elements of the YouTube content, the video content, and you're transcribing that into raw transcript content that you can develop into social posts, carousels, conversations that you can have online. And don't even get me started on the LinkedIn live. There's so many areas of you being able to have so many pockets across those three platforms alone. I believe as far as building a business with brand authority in the mix, those are the three main platforms that you should really be focusing on, in my humble opinion. And then through the synergy, that is the element of me talking about how you're able to create that synergy across those three platforms. So then more often than not, a lot of the content that you're using or you're doing is repurposed effectively across those particular platforms. Every platform plays a role, it plays a part. But then because you have used, for example, YouTube as where you develop the bulk of your content and your offering, you are then able to distribute that across your other channels in a way that can align, right? So you're always in a moment of a content loop, an infinite content loop, where you're always producing content that aligns with your ICP, with your target audience in a way that will allow them to gauge what you do, who you are, your expertise, and ultimately make them feel that you are someone that can help them, right? And then through the amplification side, as mentioned, you break down the long form content that you're doing on YouTube and you incorporate that onto your shorts, right? Your Instagram reels, your TikTok, your YouTube shorts. All of those you amplify towards the other audiences that you may be able to connect with through there. It just allows you to diversify enough where you're not using too much of your time or your energy to develop additional content, but you're still able to produce and provide those level of gems and insights in a way that can make other people see it in all various different platforms. Because we have to keep it real when it comes down to this. The algorithm isn't going to save us. Hold on, let me repeat that one. The algorithm is not going to save us. It is not. We need to be very much mindful when it comes down to producing content. And when I say mindful, we need to assume that no one is seeing our content because the algorithm alone may stop so many people from seeing it. There will be so many people who will connect with you or they'll meet you, in fact, and then they'll be asking you what you do. And you think that they would know. You need to keep saying it and you need to keep repeating it. And that's what I'm saying. Repetition, when it comes down to brand building, is a superpower because you cannot assume because you said it once that someone's going to see it. You need to keep developing it in so many various different ways until it sticks, right? And then following that, we have the PR side, the third party credibility. Where are you being placed, right, within the press, right? Are you in various different podcasts speaking about what you're doing? Are you in different publications? Are you in different broadcasters? Are you doing live TV? Are you doing interviews with different creators and within different industries? Are you positioning yourself in different trade media based in your industry? What are you doing to ensure that you are developing that reputation and solidifying your place as a key person of influence and an obvious choice? That is an incredibly important part as well. And that is my remit. That is my bag. I've been in PR for almost a decade now. So for me, I've incorporated all the things that effectively help in terms of you being able to connect with your audience, how to market yourselves effectively with your audience, how to make sure that your audience sees you as the obvious choice. And then ultimately at the end, how you're able to sell to this particular target audience, right? So it is all relative to the situation. And then when we get into the marketing side, now you have people that trust you. You have people that trust you based on you being positioned as an obvious choice. Now you use the marketing as a way to turn that attention into revenue generating opportunity, right? And then from when you are able to do the marketing effectively in a way that aligns with you and what you are doing, and a way that you can drive that attention towards your product or your service or your offering, that is what ultimately leads into revenue, right? And that is the reason why I call it the compounding engine that turns authority into sustained pipeline and revenue, because that is ultimately what it does. It is what the whole system does. And this is the reason why, if I even go back, the Phases brand authority system works to do just that. I incorporate the 3B authority method, the why. Why are we doing this? Why? I apply the phases framework, the how, the strategic levels, the implementation of it. And then the authority flywheel is a compounding effect, right? And that is the phases brand authority system. That is that in a nutshell. And with that, there is literally so much elements to this. Like, it's so broad and vast with how deep I can go with this. And it's because I spent a considerable amount of time. But the most important thing I will say is that it's uh it's a system that I'm proud of, and I incorporate it for myself. It's something that I live by, and it's something that I will vouch for every single day, because I have been focusing on exactly what it does and how it aligns in a way where you don't do it for the sake of doing it. You do it for the sake of building that level of trust. You allow people to understand your expertise, and you build it in a way that ultimately it leads into more revenue generating opportunity, whether it's come from your personal brand or whether it's from your business brand. Is to ensure that you are able to get revenue generating opportunity on both sides, right? So that is that in a nutshell. So let me know what your thoughts are. And like I said, if you are interested in hearing how I can incorporate the Phases brand authority system into your business as a founder, then like I said, click in the description box down below, apply for a Phases brand authority clarity call, and then we can have a conversation, because with this, I know that this is going to change countless lives, right? It is ordained. It's because I spent a lot of time on this, and I've been applying it to myself every day. So the way that you start to see me adopting these new things I'm doing, putting myself out there and doing this content, it all aligns with the overall system of how I'm being able to position myself as a key person of influence and the obvious choice. And I want the same for you as well. So if you are interested, then please do get in touch. But on that note, please like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know if you found this video helpful, and share it if you think there is someone who will be finding this useful as well, and it was even something that you felt was actually quite valuable for you. Then yeah, let me know in the comments, and then please do share. But on that note, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you tomorrow. Peace out. Look after yourself.